This is Wraith from Wraith Rain. I'm an author of serialized gay romance fiction. Every week on this podcast, I'll be reading a chapter from one of my gay fantasy shifter serials called Dragon's Reign. I'll explain at the break how you can find out more about this story and others I write. So let's get to it. Chapter 95. Secrets. You think that proves anything? Alarian snorted at the end of the video. That statue could have simply been moved. It was built into the wall, Anwar answered with narrow eyes. It was the first show of anger he'd shown. Valerian did have that effect on people, and he had another lamb chop drizzled with olive oil, studded with rosemary and salt and pepper. In the green Dragon King's hands, it was a deadly weapon. The way Anwar was eyeing the glistening meat and looking down at his spotless attire, a grease stain would not go. How do you know? Alarian pointed to the screen with the lamb chop. Oil whipped through the air, which Anwar just sidestepped. These images were grainy, blurry, from a cell phone. I hate to agree with Alarian on principle, Esme said tightly, but I tend to agree that this video is some kind of hoax. Spirits do not enter the world this way. You know that, Anwar, May pointed out. Anwar, could you please send me that video? I would like my people to study it, Jahara requested. Of course, and I'll send you the report that my people did, Anwar answered as he tapped on his phone to send the video along. Kayla had drawn near to the screen and she was studying the two images. The behemoth is ugly, very ugly. How can it fly? It's so big. And hate alone, my dear, Tez answered as he joined her. Something so ugly would have to be fueled by hate. The statue. Here Alarian made quotes with his fingers of his free hand as he ripped off another piece of meat. He then continued to speak with his mouth full. Could have been made of plaster of Paris. Easily moved by these cultists. Make it appear all spooky when it is nothing at all. Anwar's eyes sparkled dangerously at Alarian. I confirmed with professors that the sculpture, not made of plaster of Paris, and a part of the wall, was there. Now the wall is quite smooth, no chisel marks, as if the statue simply walked away from it. Or they built a new wall. Alarian swung the lamb chop over his head like it was a lasso. Everyone had to dodge flying oil and bits of salt and rosemary. Caden could see the fires in Valerius's eyes just before the Black Dragon King moved lightning quick. He snatched the lamb chop out of Alarian's hands and tossed it expertly onto an empty plate on the table. Alarian's eyes went huge. His mouth opened in an O of surprise and dismay. I was eating that, Alarian cried. You were trying to drench us in oil. I warned you. Valerius told him, no more lamb chops. Eat something else, and it best not move, except from your hand to your mouth, and not very much then. Alarian scowled and narrowed his eyes, but he said nothing, and instead stalked back to the buffet, away from the lamb chops. But that didn't mean he didn't cast them a longing glance. But then his eyes alighted upon the spiral-sliced honey ham studded with anise, cherries, and pineapple. Caden dragged his eyes away from Alarian. There was almost a sick fascination watching him devour whole animals, but what Anwar had shown them had Caden's head clearing. He turned back to Anwar. I'm assuming that you checked that the wall wasn't new, Caden said with an off glance back at Alarian before focusing on Anwar. The silver dragon shifter nodded. Yes, we checked everything. Trickery was the first thing I expected, especially considering that the phone was found while no one else was. Do you think they're dead? Or what happened to them? Caden asked. There were no sounds of death, Anwar assured him. He came over and took both of Caden's hands in his. Valerius stiffened. Caden stroked him mentally. You're the only one for me, Valerius. Anwar is charming, Valerius warned. Indeed, the silver dragon shifter was turning on a 1,000-watt smile upon him. Anwar brought Caden's hands up and kissed them. Anwar, Valerius growled a warning. His eyes were a sulphurous red. Oh, you are too cruel, Valerius, to not let me at least give this lovely man a kiss on the hands, Anwar said smoothly. That is Caden's choice to let you you kiss his hands." Valerius got out. Caden ducked his head and grinned. He knew how hard that was for Valerius to not try and snatch his hands away, but it was a sign of respect for him, equals. "It's a pleasure to meet you, King Anwar," Caden said as he gently disengaged Anwar's hands from his. "What you've brought us here is extraordinary and frightening." Anwar nodded. His smile died and a troubled expression crossed his handsome face. "There has been so much unrest in these past years. I could not understand it at all. People walking off into the desert, artists going mad and babbling of a hydra, looking into a friend's eyes, and not recognizing the soul behind them any longer." As Anwar spoke, Caden saw matching looks on all the dragon shifters' faces, as if they too had experienced something of this. "How I found Tamir's phone was by following a friend's footsteps in the desert," Anwar murmured. His gaze turned inward. "I do not know if you've ever been to the desert, if you ever stepped to the edge of town and looked out upon it. To see it is to know death. To go out without shoes or water or a way back is insanity." Dread grew in Caden's chest. He could see the vast and magnificent sea of dunes, past a few palm trees that dotted an oasis, to an endless ocean of sand, the moon and the stars gazing piteously down upon it. There would be almost a siren's call to that beauty. The sand would be cold beneath one's bare feet. The night air would wrap around one's bare limbs in an almost caress. To walk and walk and walk, not at a fast pace, but as a leisurely one, a stroll, to keep going for hours, to finally turn around to look back at where one had come from and not see town, only the desert and one's footprints being erased by the wind. So if one wanted to go back, could one? "So, you have the same problems we do with versions of humans first in the faith?" May crossed her arms over her chest. Human inequality, shifter inequality, everyone feeling hopeless because they can't all be on top. Despite what some people think, she aimed that last barb at Tez. "I only seek to flatten things so that everyone has food, clothes, a roof over their heads, and opportunity," Tez retorted. He was onto shrimp now, devouring each one. Kayla stole a couple and popped them into her mouth. "Everyone is so interested in material things. It only causes unhappiness. Why not love what we have? The sea, the sun, the sand." "Because people won't give you food for those things, let alone homes and vehicles and Wi-Fi." May rolled her eyes. Jahara had been studying the footage on a tablet with Shioni and Esme. Tilly had also joined them, and Jahara had tilted the screen down for her to see. "It looks so real," Tilly stated uncertainly. "But movie effects could do all this, couldn't it?" "It's hardly definitive proof of the behemoth's existence," Jahara agreed with a nod. "Your missing friend," Marban said quietly. "It was Fidel Rahal, wasn't it?" Anwar turned to look at Marban with a lifted eyebrow. "Fancy you knowing that. And you are?" "Forgive me, Anwar. I have not introduced you properly to everyone," Valerius stated. "This is Marban, a counselor of mine and member of the Shifter Council." Though Marban didn't show it, Caden knew he must be surprised to be addressed this way. Shioni gave a wry smile, though she didn't look displeased at having a co-counselor. Rose and Wally were also introduced as his counselors, as well as his parents and Tilly. Anwar kissed the back of his mother and Tilly's hands, which had both women smiling and blushing. "He really is a charmer," Caden said. "He has his moments," Valerius replied dryly. Marban inclined his head. "It is a pleasure, King Anwar. As to how I know, I must know such things to counsel King Valerius. You two were close." "We were lovers." Anwar cut to the chase, his eyes narrowed. "And I could trust him completely, so when he changed, I knew it was something more than simple unrest over shifter and human politics." "Changed how?" Rose asked. "He wasn't Fidel anymore. He spoke with Fidel's voice. He still had Fidel's face. But the soul in those eyes was not Fidel's," Anwar said, and his upper lip drew back from his teeth. It was watching me, playing its part, but it was a stranger. And then it went into the desert. One of Jahara's hands tightened around the neckline of her dress. Caden saw something in her gaze. Jahara, what is it? Does this sound familiar to you? Caden asked. She nodded slowly. There was a young woman. I was considering to join my own council. I had interviewed her many times. She felt like a sister to me, and then she swallowed. I had her for tea one day, prepared to offer her a place with me, but she was different. I did not like what I saw. And you obviously didn't give her a place, so what happened to her? Could we perhaps speak to her? Esme asked. Jahara shook her head. She walked off into the jungle, never to be seen again. People thought she had done it due to the shame of losing a place with me. But that wasn't it, Caden said. I blamed myself for what I thought was the girl's suicide, Jahara stated. Kayla rubbed her arms. She was already gone from what you were describing. Just like Sarai. Yeah, that totally makes sense, Caden said. I thought it was just zealotry, but it was as if she was a different person, Esme stated. His mother said, That might explain at least some of the faith, wouldn't it? Maybe they are affected too. I think that as well, Wally agreed, though we shouldn't be thinking that people act evilly because of some outside force. But maybe some of that is happening here. Thank you, Wally, his mother said with a watery smile. I have a listing of all of Fidel's associates. My connections may be able to find things that yours could not, King Anwar. Perhaps we could find out how Fidel was accessed and changed. Anwar's eyes cut to Valerius. You never seemed to care much about what was happening in your own territory, let alone mine, Valerius. Yet here your counselor seems to have reach far outside your own dealings. Caden glared at Anwar. King Valerius has taken a light touch because he thought it best that elected officials conduct the business of the people. When he is needed, he is there. It may not be your way of ruling, but I can tell you that as one of his territory, before I became a dragon shifter, I appreciated it. And I know many people do. His father actually smiled and gave a brief nod to Caden. The rule of law and democracy were things that his father valued greatly. Caden was starting to understand why. He didn't know if his hard words would offend Anwar, but he didn't care. One person could not know everything. One person's views could simply be wrong, even if they were trying to do what was best. He glanced up at Valerius, who had one hand covering the broad smile on his lips. Very well done, Caden. I am quite defended, Valerius said. Yeah, well, he shouldn't have said that. Caden's tone was still hot over their mental connection. Just don't challenge him about my fashion sense or high reaches to core, Valerius murmured. Anwar bowed. Forgive me, King Caden. You are right. We each are different in our ways of ruling. Hearing Fidel's name is still painful, and it caused me to lash out. For all my words, the truth is. Caden saw Valerius' surprise at these words. He had a feeling that Anwar didn't often speak so openly. Anwar grimaced. The truth is that I wish Valerius could fix this, so that there was no more Fidels, no more Tamiras, no more. Valerius was not smiling any longer. He lowered his hand from his mouth. Caden felt the surprise in him and the disappointment too. Valerius' gaze went to Shioni and then Esme. They were the ones that had convinced him to rule 30 years ago. He had done it, but then... I have let things slide, Valerius stated. Raziel and I had no interest, as Anwar said. But if I had, everyone was hiding things from one another, Caden told him. And when he thought of secrets, he could see clearly Iolaire and Raziel in his mind's eye. Something about them was wrong. He did not hear or feel Iolaire's thoughts, as if his spirit was hiding from him. He shook himself and went on. Each and every one of you thought it was something that was unique to their territory. To ask for help, even from you, would have been to show weakness. Yes, it would have. But we are not just responsible for ourselves, Valerius sent over their mental link. And I am the ruler of all. They need you, Caden stated. No matter what they say, they need you. Yes. Valerius rubbed his face. When he brought his hands down, he looked different, more determined, more focused. We have, each of us, acted as if we were on our own, Larry stated. I, most of all, have distanced myself from all of you and from the people of this planet. I did not want to rule. I did not want, but I accepted it, and I should have. I have been absent in some ways, but no more. All the dragon shifters' eyes were upon Valerius as he stood there, tall, proud, noble, and strong. He looked like what he was, the Black Dragon King, equal, yet more. Shione was looking at him proudly. There were tears in her eyes. While this video is interesting, it is not definitive of such a creature as the behemoth existing and being here, Valerius stated, and when Anwar opened his mouth to object, he held up a hand and added, But I trust you, Anwar. I trust that you feel this is true, and therefore I accept that. Something is very wrong. Did you know that you can get some of my gay romance books for free? Every month, I have at least one book free to download, right from Amazon, so you can easily read it on any device. But these books can only be free for 5 days at a time. If you don't want to miss out, just sign up for my mailing list, and I'll send you an email whenever there's a free book available. The link to the sign-up form is in the description down below. Anwar actually bowed again. Thank you, King Valerius. I am honored. It would be a lot easier if there were a behemoth responsible for all our problems, Esme stated dryly and shook her head. Because the other things are much harder to deal with. Oh, there's still a lot of normal unrest outside of this behemoth guy, Rose told her. Don't you worry. She chuckled and patted Rose's arm. Yes, dear, you're quite right. As Caden watched them all continue to discuss this matter, he looked at Iolaire and Raziel. Iolaire had been completely silent about behemoth. Wouldn't the spirits know if such a creature really did exist? Though they had not known about each other, so maybe... Iolaire, what do you know of the behemoth? Is it real or not? Caden asked. Iolaire just let out a soft hoot that conveyed nothing but sadness. Iolaire, what is going on? What do you know? Why are you sad? Caden asked. But his spirit was resolutely remaining silent. This isn't right, Caden thought. Something is wrong. Caden plucked at Valerius's arm. The Black Dragon King immediately turned to him from Anwar. There was a frown on that handsome face, concern too, but also disbelief. Yet the growing unease and alarm in Caden's breast could not be denied. He could see that Iolaire and Raziel were holding something back, maybe a lot of some things, and they had to figure out what those things were. Valerius, come with me to the throne room, Caden begged. Valerius's forehead furrowed, but he nodded. He would come. Caden felt a wave of love for the Black Dragon King. He trusted Caden implicitly and would do whatever Caden wanted. He would always have to be careful about this. So much power should not be tapped easily. Conversation continued amongst all the dragon shifters, his family and friends, while he and Valerius managed to slip out. A few saw them go, Marban, Shione, Rose, and Tilly, to be sure. He laced his fingers through Valerius's and led him quickly to the throne room. Caden, what is it? Valerius asked as he was pulled behind Caden like a kite. Iolaire is acting strange. Caden strove to explain this feeling. It's hiding things. I can feel it. It's been silent since talk of the behemoth. Despite what I said to Anwar, I do not believe that there is a behemoth, Valerius huffed. That is simply a story told to scare humans and shifters alike. Where did the sculpture go? Caden pointed out. It was there and then it wasn't. Anwar is sure, and I think, like you acknowledged, that means something. I don't know. I admit what Anwar showed us was unnerving, but I do not believe that some uber dragon has made its way here to destroy the world. Valerius's voice rose as he spoke, and that told Caden that while Valerius did not want it to be true, some part of him feared it was. You feel that the behemoth isn't real because the spirits have never said anything to you about it, right? Caden glanced back at his beautiful lover. Valerius was frowning. Even scowling, he was gorgeous, and Caden felt his heart throb. Yes. Did Raziel tell you about dragons having mates before Iolaire arrived here? Caden asked. That frown deepened, and Valerius's lips flattened before he answered, No, but that is different? How? If nothing else, that's more important to tell you than an uber dragon, Caden pointed out. They had made it to the throne room's doors. He shouldered them open. The lights were low. The mirror was in the shadows. The throne was dark. There was no claw. No audience, just the two of them. Actually, the four of us. And that was why Caden had wanted to go to the throne room. Their dragons needed to be made to talk. It was time for whatever they were holding back to come out. Caden wanted Valerius and him to be the first ones to hear it so that they could decide what to do next before going to the others. A plan was better than simply opening the floor to suggestions. Every dragon would be too busy butting heads at first to really absorb what was happening. Caden feared they didn't have much time. Caden drew Valerius to the center of the throne room so that they could see their dragon spirit counterparts clearly in the mirror. Raziel was curled around the much smaller Iolaire. The white dragon's whole body glowed softly, like moonlight on water amidst the darkness of Raziel's black scales. Raziel's eyes, flaring embers, could be seen, and far fires illuminated its head. Iolaire's head was hidden inside Raziel's right wing. Its blue eyes glowed like stars. Caden extended his and Valerius's linked hands towards the dragon spirits. "We're in this together," Caden stated. Valerius glanced from him to the dragon spirits and back again. He wasn't frowning. He saw that there was something not right with the dragon spirits too. Sulphurous fires slithered between Raziel's sharp teeth as if in warning. Whatever it was that the spirits were hiding, Raziel did not want to speak of it. Raziel tucked Iolaire tighter against its massive form. "You know that I love Iolaire," Caden stated simply. "It's my other half, Raziel. My better half, just like you or Valerius's. We have to talk about whatever this is, about the behemoth." Flames fanned out in front of Raziel's mouth. They were not aimed at him or Valerius, but appeared to be in reaction to the behemoth's name. "Raziel," Valerius spoke. His tone was troubled. "Is the behemoth real?" Simply by asking the question meant that Valerius guessed the answer. Yes, the behemoth was real. More flames filled the air. "Stop with the fire! Answer, damn it!" Valerius roared, showing some flames himself. "Yes," Raziel answered simply. "The behemoth is real." Valerius shook his head almost violently. "Why did you not tell me? Why did you let me believe that such an enemy was some children's tale?" "Because we destroyed it," Raziel roared back. Both Caden and Valerius stood there dumbfounded. Caden had known it had to be something like this. The fear that Iolaire showed, the way it trembled against Raziel, the way it had almost tried to deny what it was hearing. The behemoth was real. The behemoth was here. "You and the other dragon spirits thought you destroyed the behemoth, Raziel?" Caden clarified. More fire spouted from Raziel's jaws as it tilted its head back and let out a gout of flames and rage that it couldn't keep inside. "Evidently not, if it is back, if it is here," Valerius muttered. Iolaire still had its head stuck beneath Raziel's wing, hiding. "Iolaire, please talk to us. What is it you're afraid of?" Caden asked. "Nothing. Do not ask anything more," Raziel bellowed, turning baleful eyes at Caden. Valerius stepped between Caden and the maddened spirit. "Would you strike against Caden?" No, but ask no more, ask no more." Iolaire was already pulling its head out of the protective wing and letting out a shrill hoot at Raziel. The black dragon spirit let out a roar of rage and fear. But Caden was not afraid. It was not aimed at him. It was Raziel's only way to deal with whatever this was. Finally, Raziel answered. "The behemoth trapped our brethren to make itself into the beast that it is. But we destroyed it. We thought it and our brethren were gone, destroyed too, but, Caden prompted. "We did not." Raziel keened. "Thankfully, we did not." "Thankfully?" Valerius's brows knitted together. Iolaire was one of our brethren that was overtaken by the behemoth," Raziel answered as it curled tighter around Iolaire. "It was part of the behemoth. But it survived and came here. Iolaire believes." And then Iolaire's voice, so rare to be heard, rose up. "I should not have come here, Caden. It is my fault that the behemoth has come through." I hope you're enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. Dragon's Reign is free for you to enjoy, but not free for us to make. There is a whole team working with me for audio editing, artwork, graphic design, and custom music. Most YouTube channels and podcasts have sponsors and take ads, but because of the kind of content we make, we can't run ads or get sponsors. Instead, we have other ways you can support me and the team behind this gay romance audiobook. One easy way is to buy or borrow my books from Amazon. They are all gay romance set in alternative worlds with vampires or shifters and other magical beings. You may not know that even if you borrow books with your Kindle Unlimited subscription at Amazon, they are free for you, but they still earn us money. The books are published under the name Ex Aratare, which actually means wraith in Romanian. And if you love audiobooks, you can get professionally narrated versions of every one of my books on audible.com. The link to my author page is in the description below, as well as to the first book of the series I think you'll really like. Thank you so much for your support. People like you enable me and the team to keep writing these stories of gay romance, magic, monsters, and true love, and producing this very fun podcast for everyone. Thank you.